Hi everyone, Steve D here, the Wedding DJ Mentor, back for another episode, and we're going to talk about today the equipment that you need to be a high-end wedding DJ. So this is a subject that I'm a big fan of. I really like the equipment that you use for DJing, as many of us do. So let's talk about the equipment that you need, because this is where a lot of DJs they hit the post with this a little bit. And I'll tell you why. A lot of DJs think their setup is their product. We've already discussed what your product is in the previous videos, and it is not your setup. Your setup is just a tool to provide your service, just like a mechanic's tool provides his service, which is fixing your vehicle. His tools are not the product that he's selling to you. You don't really care. As long as they do the job and they work and they're not going to damage your car, you're not really bothered. So a bit of a loose analogy, but you get what I'm trying to say. So being a high-end wedding DJ doesn't necessarily mean you need a 25 grand setup. Would it be nice to have a 25 grand setup? Absolutely it would. Is it necessary to have a 25 grand setup? No, it is not. You do have to have good equipment. Has to be reliable, has to look good, has to sound good. It has to be capable for the job that you want, and it has to be capable of providing a quality sound, quality lighting, and it pulling together into what looks like a high-end service. But you can do that for much, much less than 25,000. So for years, I delivered £1,000 plus weddings consistently with a setup that was clean, it was professional, it was reliable, sensible. And by sensible, I mean I could carry it, because I used to carry 18-inch subs back in my 20s, but gone are those days. And it was cost effective, meaning I kept more of my profits, which event DJing and wedding DJing is a very fun industry to be in. And you can, because it's so much fun, you can kind of lose sight that it is a business and that the end result is the money that you bring in. So don't be scared of looking for bargains on the used market. So occasionally I used to buy used equipment if I come across something that was particularly attractive, especially on price. Plenty of DJs buy equipment and then use it a couple of times and it doesn't really suit them. I've been guilty of this before. Maybe their PA system doesn't really fit in the vehicle as they need it to, or it's a little bit heavy to carry, or whatever. And sometimes you can get great prices off DJs selling their equipment for maybe 2/3 of the original price, sometimes even half price. I sold my PA system, which cost me 2,200. I only got 1,400 for it in the end. There wasn't a mark on it. It was perfect. So someone's had a £1,200, a £2,200 sound system there for £1,400. I never pushed it, and someone's had a bargain there. So you can find those bargains. Obviously, there's a little bit of risk with the used market. But if you sort of do a little bit of research behind the person selling it, if they're selling in the local DJ groups and they're sort of active, and you can click on their profile and they've DJed loads of events and they run a decent business, you can be fairly sure that they're reputable and they don't want to harm their business by selling you some substandard equipment that doesn't work properly or it's got a little hiccup in it. So you can protect yourself, but obviously buying online is a little bit of a risk compared to buying from a store. So this module is about what actually matters when it comes to equipment, what the clients are going to notice about it, what the venues are going to notice, and where to sort of invest your money intelligently. All these things are business expenses, and all these things have to be thought about intelligently. You have to spend your money wisely, because being a premium business isn't about how much you spend. It's about how it all comes together and how it presents into a good service. So your booth is going to be your stage. That's going to be the focal point of your setup. It's going to be the middle of your setup, and you're going to want to spend a bit of money here. It's the first thing people see. It's what you stand behind. It's basically your in-person shop front. So for years, I used the Opti CS 150 truss booth, which was a very large, wide, quite bulky truss booth. I really liked it because it was very, very sturdy. I used to do a lot of rowdy events as well as weddings. So I do a lot of the school leavers. I do a lot of uni gigs. They were really fun to do. Trouble is they get a bit rowdy, and if people bump into that booth, doesn't really matter. But for high-end weddings, it's a little bit dated now. I wouldn't. It used to look all right when I did it because I lit it quite tastefully and it was okay. But I wouldn't recommend using a truss booth now. They're a little bit, that industrial looks a little bit dated. Everyone's starting to go the pedestal style now, which is a flat base, a narrow sort of podium, and then quite a large flat tabletop where a sort of standalone controller or your controller can sit in. So it's flush. You can have these custom made. Companies like Cosmopod DJ, shout out to Tony, who does an excellent job over at Cosmopod. Do go over there and have a look at his. He custom makes all of his stuff. They are brilliant quality. And if I was starting again, I would probably go that way. They're modern, they're minimal, they're very stylish, they're compact, and they offer a very clean look. You're going to have to spend a bit of money on them. They're not cheap, but your service isn't cheap. So you're going to need a booth that sort of matches your service. You're probably looking at 1,000 to 1,500, somewhere in that range. But if you look after it, if you get protective covers, as with all your equipment, everything needs to be protected. You buy good stuff, you buy the covers, you never move anything without putting it in protection, and then it should last you for years. So keep everything protected and it'll look good. So any scratched or chipped, dusty, dirty equipment kills that premium, that premium perception quite quickly. So we really need to keep everything looking sort of really, really good. The condition matters more than the price. So if you've got really high-end gear, but it's all battered and scratched, that doesn't look great. But if you've got a mid-range gear that's capable and it's all absolutely gleaming, sparkling clean, and it's set up really tastefully, and your cables are really well taped down, and everything looks good and symmetrical, then that's the wow factor. We've got to get that symmetry. So we've got our booth. It's up to you which booth you buy. There's loads of them on the market. My go-to now would be the pedestal booth. That's where the high-end DJs are going, and that's kind of the standard. But it's up to you. Loads of them online. Go for it. So your decks. What we're going to put on our booth. The thing that we're going to play off. Again, everything, all of this that we're going to talk about, it's all personal preference. You can find what you want online, and you can maybe go to a shop and have a look at loads of different ones. Bop DJ, Manchester's a great branch if you're in the northwest. Go to Bop DJ. They've got loads of controllers set up there, loads of decks, and you can go and touch and feel and talk to the guy in the shop. Excuse me, and he will advise you on what's best. But I used to use Pioneer stuff, and I used to use it with a laptop as well. So I did the laptop and controller thing, which again, people are moving away from the laptop and controller thing. But for me, for wedding DJing, I think it's the best combo still. The streaming services haven't really caught up quite enough. But the laptop and the controller gave me the most flexibility. I knew I had all of my equipment, all of my library in one place. I knew I could download stuff on the fly, and then I hooked that up to a very high standard Pioneer DDJ 1000 controller, which at the time was about £1,000. So that combo lasted me for years. I bought that DDJ 1000. I can't remember when it came out, the year it came out, but I used it for hundreds and hundreds of gigs. I only paid like £1,000 for it, maybe 1,100, with a bag for a couple of £100 on top. And I sold the controller and the bag for about £750. So that net cost of maybe £400 or £500 earned me tens and tens of thousands of pounds because I bought good stuff and I looked after it. It was always in the bag. It was always protected. It was always cleaned. It was serviced, all of that sort of stuff. So for that combo, it was good for me. I used a MacBook that I bought in 2012, and I only sold it in 2021 because I felt like I was pushing my luck with it, using it for 9 years for gigs, and then I upgraded it to the latest MacBook Pro, which was about £2,000. So it's quite a lot of money. But you can buy older generations of MacBook Pros refurbished on eBay from reputable companies with good feedback for a lot less than that. But go and buy yourself a Windows machine if you prefer the Windows machines. I used to have a lot of trouble with Windows machines. I moved over in 2012 and I sort of never looked back from it. So yeah, if you buy good stuff and you look after it for a long time, then it's going to pay you back 100 times over. So yeah, for me, I like the laptop and controller thing. I like the Pioneer. I liked using Recordbox because if I ever went to a club, it was very easy crossover to go onto the CDJs. It was basically sort of compact, very like a basic CDJ setup. So it was really easy for me to change between the two. So the standalone controllers are more popular now, and to be honest, I do prefer the look of having just a standalone controller with no laptop in sight. They do look a lot more professional. They do look a lot more sleek, very polished, but they are slightly limiting into what you can do because, like I said, the streaming services haven't caught up. But if I was going now, I would probably try and find the best standalone controller, if I'm being honest. I'd have my laptop in the bag just in case I needed to plug it in for whatever reason, but I would probably I'd have all my music on a hard drive and I would probably use the standalone controller simply for the aesthetics. So lighting then, DJ lighting. So this is an important part of your setup. So lighting matters, but not in the way many DJs think. A lot of them think that more lighting, more fixtures equals better, and that is absolutely categorically not the case. I would prefer just a single pair of matching high quality lights over 10 cheap rubbish all doing their own thing, because it's dazzling, it's all out of sync, it's all just running sound to light, it looks absolutely terrible. But a single pair of very good quality lights that are bright, doing their own thing, and crucially controlled. What do we mean by control? If you've been in the business a while now, we're going to talk about DMX. Now, DMX is quite a difficult thing to get your head around. So there's a few ways to get around that. By having a single pair on sound to light, if you're starting out, that's good enough. It's not good, but it's probably good enough. But you are going to need control over your lights. And there's a few reasons. A, you don't want your lights going full blown as fast as they can during the first dance or at the beginning of the night. Okay. So we're going to need to control them. One of the easiest ways now, the Chauvet DJ ILS system ecosystem is a very, very good system for wedding DJs, especially as traditional DMX control, like I said, can be quite difficult to figure out. It's not that difficult if you've got a background in control, but from a standing start, DMX is quite confusing. The ILS is really good. It's easy to set up. There's loads of fixtures that accompany with it. It's all wireless, so you don't need to be plugging stuff in. And you've got a nice piece of hardware called, I think it's called the ILS command control or something. And it's literally a piece of hardware. I think it's about 300 quid. And you can set all your scenes from there. Each button does a different pattern. You can black them out. You can strobe all your lights. You can switch them on, switch them off, dim them. You can do everything with that. A lot of control, and it's all wireless, like I said. So that is a good way. The downside to it is you're going to look at about £2,500, and that's going to be for 4 moving headlights and the command system. Quite a lot of money, but there's a lot. If you can get your head around DMX, not impossible. A lot of guys do it. You can get a program maybe like My DMX or Light Rider on an iPad. Get a converter. I've got. Bear with, excuse me. Oh, there we go. I've got My DMX Go here. This is what I used to use with an iPad. Again, all wireless in there, and I hooked that up to an iPad, and it worked quite well. Wasn't brilliant. I believe the Light Rider is a bit more stable. So if you are going to go for an iPad DMX, I would go for Light Rider. It's supposed to be better than the My DMX. My DMX used to drop out and it used to give me some problems. So that's why it's in a box, barely used. So if you can get your head around DMX, you can use cheaper fixtures. A lot of the Chinese brands now are really, really catching up. People used to slag off the cheap Chinese stuff, but King, B Topper, these brands are Chinese sort of warehouse brands, but they make excellent stuff. Equinox as well. Equinox is a great brand, and they do really, really good cheap fixtures. For 250 quid, you can get a couple of Equinox barrels. I can't remember what they're called, the Merlin or something like that. They're really bright, really vibrant, look great. And for 2 fixtures for 500 quid, if you get them DMX'd, you can create some really, really nice effects with them for quite a low price, especially if you couple it with a pair of moving heads as well, something like that. Maybe you can couple it with some wireless uplighters for around the room, so you can get the room washed as well. Wash lights are really good these days, rather than beams. So, like I said, most people don't really care about the lighting, but the lighting does need to have good coverage, needs to have clean positioning. Symmetry is key. You want your lights, especially moving heads, well, you want your moving heads mirrored, so they mirror each other, not do the same thing. You want them mirrored. We want to limit the amount of cables, and that's where the wireless DMX comes in. And we want to really control those lights so that we don't have flashing randomness during first dances, which I've seen some videos of some DJs, and their lights are just going mad with the first dance with all the LED dots and everything, and that is not the mark of a high end wedding DJ. So the lighting should feel intentional and appropriate for the vibe. Like I said early on, we need to keep our lights maybe at 50% power. Maybe they're just slow rotating gobos and doing not much else. The first dance, probably all white sweeps, slow sweeps around the room with your moving heads. Maybe wash the walls with some white lighting. But party time, we want to be able to hit a button. We want full power, full brightness. We want lots of movement. We want lots of color. We want changing scenes. We want strobes on the drops for the tracks. And then just make them work for you. The lighting can really enhance your performance. And if you've got good control over your lighting, you can hit those blackouts for when the breaks of dance music especially. And then when it starts building up, you can raise brightness. And then when the drop hits, you can strobe those lights, and it brings the whole performance together. And the more you play with it, the better you get. I used to have an ADJ NE1 controller, which controlled my 4 moving heads, and I pre-programmed all the scenes in it, really easy to use. And I knew which scene to hit for which part of the song, and it really brought the performance together. So our lights need to be controlled, elegant, impactful. Uncontrolled lights, all doing their own thing, look dreadful. So really do focus on your lighting if that's one of your weak points, which it was for me for quite a few years. I used to use the sort of master slave, if you can still say that, I'm not 100% sure. Well, it's still called master slave, and just link them together. But it really changed when I started to control it. So our sound system then. This is our signature. This is where you don't go cheap. But you don't need to go ridiculous either. You can spend whatever you want on a PA system. There's a PA system for everybody. You want to spend 100 grand? There's a PA system for you. You want to spend 300 quid? There's a terrible PA system for you, but there's a PA system for you. So you can spend whatever you want. I love them, but I also understand that I need to pay for them and I need to carry them. So there needs to be a balance between price, between quality, capability, and portability. And you've got to store them as well. So for me, I used to use DB Technologies, and DB Technologies is a massively underrated brand, in my opinion. It's underrated because it's owned by RCF. DB Technologies is RCF's sister company, so they share a lot of the same components, but they're a lot more competitively priced. They still look great. They sound brilliant. I use the DB Technologies ES1002 PA system, which was a bottom cabinet with two 12-inch subs each side. So I had 4 12-inch subs. then a short pole to a column array on the top, which was, I think, 8 4-inch speakers in that column array, all angled differently. The spread was lovely, the sound quality, the depth from the bass. And for anything up to maybe 150 people, that was all the sound system you needed, maybe even a little bit more than that. If you were doing massive events or big marquees with, 200 plus, you'd probably need some extra subs. But for anything 150, and I loved my dance music, it had plenty of punch, it sounded great, it really filled the room nicely. There was a lovely warmth and tone to that PA system, and I paid £2,200 for it. I used it for probably 4 or 5 years, and then I sold it for £1,400. So that net spend there of whatever that is, £800, earned me many, many thousands over the years. I had the bags with it. I kept it nice and clean. There wasn't a mark on it when I sold it, not a scuff, not a scrape, not a nothing. So it was, professional looking, very compact, very sleek, very, very thin and narrow. And it was compact and it was portable. It was very easy to get into the vehicle, and it handled 150 guests with ease, which was enough for the majority of the weddings. It looked clean, produced a full sound, it was reliable, and it was easy to move for my old or aging spine. They're excellent value for money, these column array systems, and they're ideal for what we need in the wedding industry. So they're compact, they're stylish, they're great quality, they're cost effective, and they're portable. The compactness is good because it means you take up less footprint on the floor, especially if you're working with other suppliers like bands or someone like that. Other great column systems, everybody does them now. So EV Evolve 50, brilliant. HK Polar 12s, not as good as the 50s, but still really good. The RCF brand new J11s are supposed to be absolutely excellent, to name a couple, but most brands do them now. So keep an eye out for any used pairs for big savings. I sold my DBs, like I said, for 1,400 quid, and they were a bargain for the guy that bought those. So if we're talking PA systems, I assume that most people, so sorry if I'm teaching you how to suck eggs here, but a lot of the older guys look at the wattage. So wattage basically was how much electricity those speakers used, but it's largely irrelevant because the cheaper budget brands, usually the ones with big stickers on the front, the speakers I'm talking about, probably Mackie or something like that. They've got big sticker, or Alto do this a lot, 2,000 watts right on the front there. Now it looks great, 2,000 watts, but that just means it uses a lot of electricity, uses a lot of energy, but it doesn't produce as much power, like musical power. So what is a better monitor, or a matrix to look at, or metric to look at, I should say, is the SPL, or sound pressure level. And that SPL is measured in decibels. We know what a decibel is. And that's how much air that speaker moves. And it's a much more reliable way of finding out just how much power and how much sort of grunt those speakers are throwing out. So some speakers use loads of power and don't produce much output, especially the ones that come with the sticker, like I said. Think of like the old American cars. They had huge, like 5-litre V8 engines, massive fuel consumption, probably did like 8-10 miles to the gallon or something. Not fast at all. It's the same sort of principle with speakers. So for weddings, anything under 125 decibels, you're probably going to want to avoid them. 129, very solid, plenty of grunt at 129. Anything sort of over 130 to 135, they are properly loud. So if you're looking at an SPL level of around 130, you're probably going to be good to go. And every manufacturer lists their SPL level in their max SPL in their technical specifications. So yeah, that numbers matters a lot, as does the size and weight. Obviously, we need to make sure that they can fit in the vehicle and make sure that we can carry them quite easily. If they're like 45 kilos each, it's quite a heavy load that for dragging about. Remember, you're going to be dragging these into venues on red hot summer's days where it's 30 degrees out on a red hot summer afternoon. So the real cost of looking professional, let's add this up roughly. So we've got a booth. We're going to look at 1,200 quid for that. Our laptop's probably going to be around a grand, maybe two if you get a new one. Our controller's going to be 1,000. Lighting, it depends on if you're going to learn DMX or if you're going to use the Chauvet ILS system. But under a grand for DMX, if you can figure that out and use the budget brands. I don't even want to say budget because some of them are really good. The B Topper, U King produce really nice effects. Or if you're going to use the Chauvet, it's going to be a bit more. Your sound system's 2,200. Maybe some backups. We're going to have maybe a speaker as a backup. We're going to have a little controller as a backup. Maybe even some plenty of cables and things like that. Make sure you've got backup equipment. Anything can fail at any time. So it doesn't matter how new, how good your equipment is, how much you paid for it, they can fail and do fail. So make sure you've got something in the van or in the car that you can chuck on just to get you through that night if you need to. So adding all that up, we're around about £8,000. Now it sounds like a lot, but let's break it down. If you're charging $750 to £1,000 per wedding, you're in profit on your 11th night. Just think you do 11 gigs, which is probably only going to be a couple of months. And that setup could last you 5-10 years with the right care and maintenance. So that is not a personal expense, that is a business expense. And it's a deductible business expense, which will lower your tax bill. So what actually makes it high end? It's clean, it's modern, it's appropriate, it's a thoughtful presentation. It's setting up symmetrically, dead center of the room. So when I say dead center of the room, normally if you look on the back wall, you want to be dead center of that space. Even if you're just sort of a foot each way or 30 centimeters each way, it's going to throw people off. They're not going to think it's rubbish, but it'll go, because I used to, especially in marquees where it's got the pointed roof, you want your head to be bang under that pointed roof so it all just fits symmetrically. And when people are walking in, it just looks 10 times better, you know. That's why I wish my nose was symmetrical. You know, I'd have done a lot of better numbers in my younger years. So the sound quality and feel is important. We need deep bass. We need clarity, even at volume. We don't want any hissing or pops or spluttering or anything because we've undersized our PA system. But also, we don't want to be oversizing our PA system. You don't want tons and tons of headroom because you've got to carry that stuff. And headroom equals weight, equals size, equals cost to you. Reliability. Consistent sound and look from start to finish, flawless performance with no hiccups or glitches. So, like I said, we want a good quality laptop that's not going to give you any problems on the day. I've seen a lot of DJs freaking out on the day because their Windows machines forced to back up, or an update, I should say, during the middle of the gig or at the beginning of the gig, and it's going to take 2 hours and there's nothing you can do about it. The amount of posts I've seen that's happened on is ridiculous, and it really makes me think I'm very happy that I've got a Mac. I know you can turn it off, but it still happens. We need emergency backup planning. Spares, like I said, you're a pro. You need to be dealing with the problems. Keep a spare lead for everything, and I do mean everything. Every lead can and will let you down at some point. Have a backup. Cable management. This is a massive, massive bugbear for DJs, and if you're in any of the DJ groups, you will see them moaning about cable management. It's the first thing. Anytime a DJ posts a setup online, they're opening themselves up to a world of criticism. And one of the main criticisms, especially if they haven't tidied up their cable. So if you've got subs and tops with a pole between, and you haven't taped your pole or used Velcro ties to dress the cable behind the pole so you can't see it from the front view, and you just leave them dangling everywhere, it's not the look of a professional. That a lot of the budget DJs and the cheaper DJs don't really see this as important. They don't really care. They don't think it matters. But I tell you what, it matters, because messy does not equal professional. Messy does not equal premium. Excuse me. And messy just lowers your perceived value. If everything is super clean, super crisp, super tidy, you're dressed to the nines, everything's looking great, it's all just part of your image. And keeping your cables tidy is a huge, you need to do. Okay. So make sure they're all tidy. Just look at it. Can you see cables dangling even underneath your booth? Just have a look at it as if you're a DJ critiquing someone else's setup. That seems to be the best way to do it. And then just make some slight adjustments. It takes 2 minutes to tidy up your cables. I used to use a roll of black insulation tape or electrical tape. Not great for the environment, granted, but I probably only used about 5 rolls over my entire career, so I think it's okay. And just keeping them dressed, leaving a little bit of slack onto the plug. Don't pull them tight. Make sure there's always slack going into your speakers so they don't vibrate out, and you don't put too much pressure on your joints so your cables are damaged. Round the top, a ring round the bottom, literally takes 10 seconds. That side's done, same on the other side, and then just make sure everything's taped to the floor. Make sure nobody can trip over anything. So yeah, condition of your equipment, we've already mentioned. Make sure your gear is in great condition. Any tatty gear that needs repairing or painting, I used to paint before I got my new PA system. Once it starts to get scratched, or if it gets any scratches or anything like that, just a little bit of paint will tidy it up. But yeah, 99% of premium couples won't know what brand of speakers you're getting or that you're playing off CDJ 3000s. They'll notice, does it look neat? Does it fit the vibe of the venue? Does it feel modern? And does it feel intentional? Does it look like you've thought about your setup and you've brought it all together? Venues notice, is it tidy? Is it safe? Is it fit for purpose? Have you taped your cables down? Because they're looking for something to be tidy and tidy and clean, you know? So that's what matters, guys. And that's yeah, all that we've talked about there is where you can charge the premium fees without spending tens and tens of thousands of pounds. So I'd very much recommend doing that. Don't buy the entry level of any brand, because that's budget shoppers. That's people just wanting that brand, but they want to pay the minimum price. They put the minimum effort into it. You're going to have to buy mid-range or high-range equipment of whatever brand you like. I wouldn't recommend buying the entry-level model of anything. I wouldn't buy the entry-level MacBook Pro. I wouldn't buy the entry-level Function Ones. I wouldn't buy the entry-level of any brand. Mid-range is where it's at. That's where the value and quality for me was. But you know, you push the boat out. If you've got a good credit rating and a massive credit card with loads to spend, push the boat out. Buy the Evolve 50s. Go step up in quality if you want, but just know it doesn't necessarily, without doing all the other stuff we talked about, it doesn't necessarily lead to more money. So there you have it, guys. You don't need to spend 25 grand on kit. You do need to have professional presentation. It needs to be reliable, good quality sound. It needs to feel nice all in the room, not screechy, not too bassy. Need to have controlled lighting. We need to invest our money smartly, and it needs to be in immaculate condition. So if you buy once, buy well, maintain it properly, and charge accordingly, then you're not going to go far wrong when it comes to the gear side of things. Your equipment supports your positioning. It doesn't make your positioning. We've all heard the phrase, all the gear, no idea. The equipment doesn't make or break you as a DJ. It's just a tool for the actual job of filling a dance floor. So don't get too hung up on it. And definitely don't follow the trends. There's a lot of DJs that get sucked into that. They need the latest gear, latest gear. You're not a real DJ if you don't use this. You're not a real DJ if you do that. There's a lot of complaining about the sync button. Use the sync button. I don't care. I know how to mix properly. I use the sync button at every gig. Couldn't care less. It's fine for me. You can do a fantastic job of DJing a wedding on the cheapest controller on the market. Spend the money on a nice booth and a good PA, and everything else can wait for now. So if you've got a nice booth, nice PA, and a pair of good lighting, you are good to go. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the photography that I've been going on about a lot. That is an extra that I think you need, and I'll explain all next time on how it's great for you, how it's great for your client, and how it is unbelievable for your business. So tune in for the next video. If you're still here, thanks very much. You've made it to the end. Do please subscribe to this channel. everything I'll be talking about, I'll be giving away all my wedding DJ knowledge that I've accrued over the years. Do like the video, please. It really helps push everything along, as you know. And if you've got any questions or comments to anything that I've said, or anything that you would like any help on or information, drop it in the comments below. I'll do my very best to reply to everybody. And like I've said in previous videos, if your question is something that I've got a lot of knowledge on and I can feel I can make a whole video, I'll do a whole video on it, and we'll talk about it and we'll get right to the bottom of everything. So thanks very much. I've been Steve D, the Wedding DJ Mentor. See you on the next one. Bye bye.